Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the November 30th, 2021 DVMUG Zoom meeting. Today, we're going to feature news and views with Apple, and we are going to talk about rating Apple gift ideas, how not to pick the wrong MacBook Pro, the best free wallpaper app for the Mac, the iPhone iPad screen pointer, which is kind of cool, put a little pointer on your screen, 10 Mac tips, iOS 15 drag and drop, cases, covers, and sleeves, questions and answers, and the ever popular social hour. So without any further ado, let's move on to news. Apple has updated Shazam, their music identification service. If you haven't used Shazam, it's eerie how good it is. Just turn it on your phone, hold it up to the music you're listening to, and it will 99 times out of 100. Somebody's trying to call me. 99 times out of 100, it will identify the song accurately. Version 15 explains that the app can spend a little more time listening so that you get a better accuracy. So it tries a little harder for longer to find that, find what the name of that track is or what that song is. So try it. If you haven't tried it, everybody's got it. It's free, built in. Apple and Google were fined 10 million euros over the lack of customer choice in data usage. The European Union felt that Apple and Google had a take it or leave it attitude, and they wanted to be able to offer customers alternatives. Apple is suing the Israeli NSO group. They created a military-grade spyware that focused on cracking journalists, human rights activists, and political dissidents. The system was known, or is known, as Pegasus. You may have read about it. Apple issued an emergency software update recently when they learned that Pegasus has become a threat to Apple users. And interestingly enough, today on MacBreak Weekly, Leo Laporte and his associates were talking about a Polish, I think it was a Polish legislator who got an email from Apple warning them that a state-sponsored spyware had been found on their phone. And apparently this group is selling licenses to use this software against whoever the government is particularly suspicious of. Sounds like maybe the Chinese against the Uyghurs and the Iranians against the Zoroastrians and so forth. So we're entering a perilous time now. Apple supposedly created a spyware staller, so to speak, that is included in our operating systems. But if this Polish legislator received a warning that was the case, then maybe it doesn't work as well as they should, or maybe she didn't do her updates. Whatever it is, this is important that when there's an update notice that comes out, you need to do your updates. Because it's up to you to do your due diligence. Apple Monterey is having some problems with some bugs that are reported. Memory leaks are bringing operations in some M1 Macs to a halt, to the point that it requires a restart and a resetting of mouse pointer options before the machine will function properly. The quick look failures are annoying, and instead of opening an image when the spacebar is tapped, the machine reverts to icon view instead. Some Magic keyboards with Touch ID stop working and require power cycling to restore the Touch ID. Some external monitors connected with USB-C fail to be detected after the Mac is restarted following a memory leak, but this does not affect the HDMI port, only USB-C. Additionally, some problems have been noted in the new MacBook Pros with charging, and Apple is apparently diligently working to solve those problems. I saw that one just this morning. So that's the news, and there seems to be a lot of it. Anybody got any comments on any of that stuff, or shall we move ahead?
Yeah, Rick, the item before the spyware one, what was that again? Oh, about the Euro fine. So, what does that mean? In what way were they depriving you of data usage?
Well, apparently, when you log into Apple, you've got an Apple ID and it goes to iCloud. They don't like that. They want you to be able, if you want to log into Yahoo instead, or some other entity. Apparently, the Europeans feel that Apple is playing monopoly there. Much the same if you sign up for a Gmail account or a Google Voice account, they want you to be able to sign into Apple instead. Well, that seems pretty stupid to me. That's like having a Bell telephone and going and asking that General Telephone send you the bill instead. It doesn't make sense. But some of the stuff that the European Union proposes doesn't make sense, although they are very, very consumer oriented. Okay. So let's look at the 21 Apple gift idea guide and see what Gary has to say about it. Here we go. Go away, go back. Go back. Now why? What the dickens? I'm not able to get this.
You may have to click the link.
Okay, I'll try that. It's hot. Oh, it's going to go. It's going to YouTube. We don't want that.
I think you may have to do that now. We were have to do that one out last few weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to YouTube and then we made that full screen and ran it.
Well, it's not doing it. See if that'll get us there. No.
Can you highlight it?
You're not going to get full screen, I don't think, once it goes.
Yeah, you should be able to. We were getting there. If you can get it to open in the browser to go to YouTube, you can manipulate it, get it full screen.
Well, I'm in the browser.
Oh, so you only shared the Keynote screen. You need to unshare and share desktop one. We still see Keynote. We're not seeing your other apps.
Okay. Well, I'm not even seeing Keynote.
Well, all we see is Keynote. We don't see anything else.
I think you have to stop screen sharing to change it.
Yeah, you got to share desktop one so it shares all your apps so you can switch between apps.
Okay, stop sharing. And I'm going to start sharing again. Turn off the recording for a minute.
Stand by.
Yeah, but Rick says that they say that they're not fun.
What?
When
The video we just saw said they're not fun. They're not fun for gifts.
It's a joke.
It's a joke.
Move
Yeah.
on.
Right.
see if-
Okay.
Thanks, Ed.
14.2 versus
Sure.
16.2 inches, 3.5 versus 4.7 pounds, 6 versus 8 performance cores, 14 versus 32 graphics cores, single versus double video accelerators, 16 versus 64 gigabytes of unified memory, 512 gigabytes versus 8 terabytes of SSD, 17 hours versus 21 hours of battery life, and a difference of $500 to over $5,000 or more. So, are the extra size and features worth the extra cash? I'm Rene Ritchie, thanks to Ting for sponsoring, and this is MacBook Pro versus MacBook Pro. Let's go. One of the absolute best things about the new MacBook Pro is that both sizes, 14-inch and 16-inch, are almost identical. Almost. That includes the high dynamic range, HDR, mini LED displays with up to 120 Hz adaptive refresh rate on both sizes. The only thing left for you to do is to pick between those sizes, between 14.2 inches and 16.2 inches. Now, on paper, that difference may look like $500, $2,000 versus $2,500, but that $2,000 is for a lower spec 14-inch, which I'll get to in a minute. If you want to compare apples to other apples, once you put the system in parity, the actual difference is just $200, $2,300 versus $2,500. Now, bigger might always just sound like better, especially if you really do want to have the most content in front of you as possible. For photo or video editing, music making, 3D rendering, coding, whatever, just all the canvas, all the layers, all the text, all the palettes, all the pixels, all the time. But with that extra size does come extra bulk, and yes, extra weight. Obviously, the bigger one is bigger, which will affect how easily it'll fit onto your desk and in your bag. But it's also heavier, 3.5 pounds versus 4.7 pounds heavier, half a kilo heavier. And that might not matter to you like at all if you're just leaving it on your desk. But if you're carrying it around all day, every day, that may matter to you quite a lot. So if portability really is the most important thing to you, you're gonna wanna stick with the 14-inch. But if screen real estate is everything that matters, you're going to go all the way up to the 16-inch. So, real talk. Unlike Deadpool, not everyone needs maximum effort from a MacBook Pro. If what you really want is that mini LED display or those HDMI, SD card, MagSafe, and Thunderbolt 4 ports, then the 14-inch MacBook Pro offers you an option of a bin-down M1 Pro with only 6 performance cores instead of 8 and 14 graphics cores instead of 16. Same 2 efficiency cores and 16 neural engine cores, just minus 2 P cores and G cores, starting at $2,000 or $300 less than the full-on M1 Pro. And that lower core, lower price option just isn't available on the 16-inch model. It's 14-inch only. So if you absolutely positively have to have a 2021 MacBook Pro, but you don't want to spend dime or dollar more for it than you absolutely have to, the 14-inch is your nifty thrifty option. But on the other hand, if maximum effort is your mantra, well, for this MacBook Pro, you can actually go either way. Both the 14 and 16-inch models can be escalated from the M1 Pro to the M1 Max, which means really, truly maxed out with 32 GPU cores, 64 gigabytes of RAM, and 8 terabytes of SSD. And they also both have exactly identical ports. But the 16-inch does have a bigger thermal envelope, so it'll be able to run hotter for longer. So if you are literally intent on lighting up all of that silicon all of the time, or at least for a long time, the 16-inch M1 Max, and only the 16-inch M1 Max, has a high power mode as well that'll let you goose those fans and that temperature to let those cores be absolutely everything that they can be. So if you just want a MacBook Pro and performance isn't your prime concern, get the 14-inch, maybe even the 8-core 4 GPU version of the 14-inch. But if you really truly want the MacBook Pro, get the 16-inch M1 Max, 10-core, 32 GPU version. Now, you can get the M1 Pro or the M1 Max in either the 14-inch or 16-inch MacBook Pro. Both have the same 2 Ice Storm high efficiency cores, 8 Firestorm high performance cores, and 16 neural engine cores. That is with the exception of the 14 inches 8 core M1 Pro variant that I just mentioned. But when it comes to just pure CPU and machine learning performance, you're getting the exact same capability no matter which way you go. With the M1 Max though, you can get 24 GPU cores for an extra $200 or 32 GPU cores for an extra $400. What the versions with more cores give you is literally exactly that, more better multi-core performance. So if you're doing anything that's GPU bound, for example, like heavy 3D modeling or a ton of effects work or driving a bunch of high-res displays, that's where you're going to see the difference. M1 Max also offers extra accelerator blocks for media, 2 video encode and ProRes encode and decode engines instead of just one of each on the M1 Pro. So if you're working on multiple streams of 8K ProRes video or just outputting a ton of video, for example, you're going to want to go with the M1 Max. And for more on all of that, I'll drop a link to my review in the description right below the like button. The other big difference is, of course, RAM. M1 Pro supports up to 32 gigabytes of unified memory. M1 Max supports up to 64 gigabytes. Now, unlike traditional PCs, which have separate CPUs with RAM and GPUs with video RAM, VRAM, all laid out on a giant board, Apple Silicon uses a much smaller system on a chip design, or SoC. That puts the CPU and GPU on the same die and the RAM on the same package. That means they all have access to that same big pool of memory and don't have to waste time copying data back and forth. And that pool of memory at 16 gigabytes is already big for a laptop GPU, and at 64 gigabytes is just enormous. Now, most people won't need more than 16 gigabytes, of course, but if you really are pushing the limits of your existing machine, if you're doing tons of pro work in multiple pro apps across multiple pro displays, all at the same time, now you can feed all those cores, all those apps, and all those screens with up to 64 gigabytes of RAM at the same time. So if you're more than fine with your existing MacBook or laptop, you'll almost certainly be fine with 16 gigabytes. But if you've been frustrated with 16 gigabytes in the past, if you've already been feeling memory pressure with exactly those kinds of workloads, then now you can get 32 gigabytes. And if you've always wanted the equivalent of a Mac Pro in a book, you can now get all the way up to 64 gigabytes in your MacBook Pro. Yeah, it's ridiculous. For SSD, the basic rule of thumb is to take what you have now and just double it for whatever you're getting next. That way you buy yourself some breathing room against storage creep. So that pretty much puts 1 terabyte at the bottom end of the sweet spot and 2 terabytes at the top end. Any less and you'll likely be living the external drive life, which can be even more annoying than that dongle life, and any more and you're just paying a premium to store bigger files and projects locally and tempting the backup gods that the extra convenience doesn't just make you extra sloppy. So if you don't currently feel any storage pressure, go for 1 or 2 terabytes and then just offload old work when and if it's necessary. But if you are feeling it, especially if you travel a lot and it's just really hard to go external, then look at more. 4 terabytes, or if you just never want to look at a drive again, except for backup, 8 terabytes. Now, if you want the longest battery life possible, it might seem simple. Just get the biggest MacBook Pro possible, the 16-inch, and that's true, but only partially true, because the 16-inch absolutely has the biggest battery, bigger than the 14-inch. But the other thing you'll want to consider is the chipset. Everything else being equal, if you care about battery life more than performance, you'll care about the M1 Pro more than the M1 Max, because less silicon just means less power draw. But if you put those two things together, the 16-inch with the bigger battery and the smaller M1 Pro chipset will combine like Voltron to give you the absolute longest battery life possible on the MacBook Pro. In other words, maximum performance, the 16-inch MacBook Pro with M1 Max. Maximum battery life, 16-inch MacBook Pro with M1 Pro, which also might help you get just maximum value, depending on your specific needs and workloads, between that $2,000 base model Pro and the $16,000 fully loaded MacBook, which is why it is legit terrific to have so many options, especially to smash your phone bill in half like you can with today's sponsor, Ting. Get talk and text for just $10 a month, data plan starting at $15 a month, unlimited from $45. And whether you use 2 or 20 gigabytes, you can find the perfect plan for you and your family with Ting. And Ting works with all the latest iPhones, all the latest Pixels, all the Galaxy Flips and Folds, pretty much anything you can push a SIM card into, and you can keep your existing number. Plus, you get access to the best nationwide coverage in America, as well as Ting's award-winning customer service. Just go to renee.ting.com to check out all the plans and see how much you could save, because it could be a lot, especially after you buy one of these new MacBook Pros. And because you're watching this video, you'll also get $25 off. Just click on the link below or go to renee.ting.com and get $25 off. Clicking on
I wonder if we should cut these commercials, or if we cut them, then maybe they might say, well, don't show the video then.
It's too difficult.
Yeah. I mean, I could pull the switch on it while he's giving the commercial, but I don't know.
It goes quick. It's all
Yeah.
right.
Okay, I don't want our members to be bored. So we spent all your money, and how about something free? This is a short little video. Let's hope I can get it to run.
You know what everybody loves? Free apps that are actually useful, or at least cool. And I've got a sweet little app that you Mac owners are going to love, especially if you own a laptop. Coming up next on Tech Talk America. The name of the app that I want to tell you about today is called Satellite Eyes. It's totally free, and it was developed by a gentleman named Tom Taylor. Satellite Eyes is an app for Mac OS that automatically changes your desktop wallpaper to a map of wherever you are at that moment. So if you know someone who does a lot of traveling, make sure you tell them about this app. When you download Satellite Eyes, you'll want to drag it and drop it into the applications folder, and then when we launch it, you'll find the controls up here in the top menu bar. For now, let's just go into preferences. The first thing that I recommend you do is tell this to automatically run on startup. As you can see here, we have 3 categories of options. Here we can choose from several different map styles. I'll show you a few of my favorites in just a moment. Next, we can change the zoom level to street, neighborhood, city, or region. The map style that you're seeing on my desktop right now is called Mapbox Satellite, which is probably my favorite. My second favorite style is called Thunder Force Transport, and I imagine that this could be really handy for anyone who does need to travel a lot for work or bike enthusiasts. And finally, this is Bing Aerial, and in my opinion, I think this looks best when you set it to either the city or the region view. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to take a quick moment and hit that thumbs up like button, leave me a little comment down below, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. This is David A. Cox with Tech Talk America. Class dismissed.
Short and sweet. So I can't add to that. It looks interesting. Not sure it's for me, but maybe somebody else might find that useful. Some of you have seen, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not.
Yeah,
Has a little circle around it.
yeah.
Well, this is from a third-party thing, but built into the iPhone and iPad is a means of using that pointer. Let's learn how to do that.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let me show you how to get that little circle on your iPhone or iPad screen that shows you where you're tapping. MacMost is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MacMost.com/Patreon. There you can read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So whenever I do videos on the iPhone or iPad, I always get questions about this circle that you see here that shows you what I'm about to tap on the iPhone or iPad screen. Now while you can add some things like this in post-production so that you can indicate what you're tapping or what you're talking about, the way I do this is actually pretty simple. All I'm doing is connecting a mouse to my iPhone. And once you use a mouse, of course the iPhone needs some way to show you what you're about to tap or click on the mouse. So it puts this little circle there. It's automatic and it's just part of the function of using a mouse with your iPhone or iPad. I'm taking advantage of that so I can make tutorials where you could see what I'm actually doing. Otherwise I'd have to put a camera where you could see my finger touching the screen. So if you need to demonstrate something on the iPhone or iPad, whether it's in a presentation or making your own video, you may want to do this as well. All you need to do is get yourself a cheap Bluetooth mouse. That's all it has to be. This is like a $10 cheap off-brand mouse that I bought on Amazon. As long as it's Bluetooth, it should work. Now, a word of caution. I have a variety of Bluetooth mice, including this original wireless Apple mouse, the type that takes 2 AA batteries. And I have some newer ones as well. This old Apple mouse, that will work with an iPhone and iPad. But a newer version that looks identical works fine with any Mac I try it on, but will not work with any iPhone or iPad I've tried it on. I also have newer mice that are the rechargeable kind. And the oldest one of those I have also will not connect to any iPhone or iPad device. But a slightly newer version, this one happens to be black because it came with my Mac Pro, it should be the same, but this one actually does work with any iPhone or iPad. So the Apple mice are a little hit and miss. What seems to work all the time, just something cheap like this. This cost me $10 on Amazon and it's just a cheap, super lightweight mouse. But you can also use a wired mouse. The way you would do that is you have to get a USB adapter. It connects to the lightning port on your iPhone or your older iPad, and then you connect the USB-A side to a wired mouse. Of course, if you have a newer iPad, that would use USB-C. So you just have to get a mouse that uses USB-C or an adapter to go from USB-A to USB-C. But you can do a wired mouse as well. So let me show you how to set this up. I, of course, already have it set up because you can see the circle there. But if you go into Settings and then from there go to Accessibility, then look for Touch. And here you have to have Assistive Touch turned on. I do, but if you go in, there's the switch. Now, if you go down to the bottom here, you'll see Devices. So once you first turn that on, nothing really happens. But if you go to Devices, this is where you can connect your mouse. So here I've got one connected, but you could go into Bluetooth devices and it will look for other Bluetooth devices as well. So you can find any other mice there. Technically trackpads as well, although I've never tried a third-party trackpad with it. I have tried unsuccessfully to use Apple trackpads to do this. Now sometimes when you connect it to a Bluetooth device, it asks for a PIN. The PIN is just 4 digits and you have to look in the little instruction booklet that comes with your mouse for whatever it is. It's usually 0000 or 1111. For Apple mice, if you're trying one of those and you can get it to appear here, it's 0000. Now as soon as you connect, you'll see the circle appear. And now you can actually adjust how the mouse works and looks. So here I can go to this mouse here. When you start off, it doesn't actually have anything there. You have to click Customize Additional Buttons. It asks you to press that button on your mouse and then it will ask you to select what it does. Now back up a level here in Assistive Touch, you're going to want to go down to Tracking Sensitivity and set that somewhere that works for you. So probably something pretty low with the mouse, so that you have to move your mouse a little bit in order for it to go from side to side. If you set it too high, it's almost impossible to get the circle over something so you can click it or touch it. And there are a lot of other things that you can do that really have nothing to do with why I'm using this feature, which is just to show on the screen what I'm tapping. But you can set things like hot corners and such to do even more with the mouse when it's connected. If you go back up a level here and then back up another level, so you're back up in Accessibility, scroll to Pointer Control. And here you can change the size of the pointer, make it bigger like that. You can also change the color of the pointer to suit your needs and even the border width. So that's it, and it works the same way on the iPad, the same settings in the Settings app. And remember, the primary reason this is there is the accessibility function of being able to use a mouse instead of having to touch the screen. I'm just using this as a way to highlight things on the screen and so you could see where it is I'm tapping when I do tutorials on the iPhone or iPad. And of course you could do the same whether you're recording videos like me, whether you're demonstrating things in a meeting, or perhaps demonstrating how an app works if you're a developer. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
That, for once, that's something we can all do. Try your mouse with your iPad or your iPhone, and you might be able to have some fun with it. I'm certainly going to use that at the senior center when the classes resume in 2022, because I think that's going to be very helpful, particularly with the quality of the projector at the senior center, which is less than awful, worse than awful. It's just very low res. So moving along, here's Gary with more Mac tips that you may find to be useful.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Today, here are 10 Mac tips for my Patreon supporters. MacMost is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters at Patreon. Go to MacMost.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. And speaking of my Patreon supporters, I recently asked them for their favorite Mac tips. I got a lot of responses with some great tips. Here are 10. So Robert, a supporter since February 2020, still likes to use the old Save As command, as do I. But a lot of apps don't have that. If you go to File, you won't see Save As, but instead Duplicate. However, you can get Save As back by simply holding the Option key down. The Duplicate option will change to Save As. They're similar commands, so that makes sense. Stephen, a supporter since January 2017 when I started my Patreon campaign, and also Albert, a supporter since August 2019, both had the same suggestion. And that's using Command H to hide apps rather than quitting them. So for instance, here I am in Pages and it's covering everything. Instead of just quitting Pages and having to relaunch it, I can go to Pages, hide Pages, or just Command H. So Command H hides the app. It reveals what's behind, but Pages is still running. I can use the dock or any other way I launch apps to instantly bring it back. Now Jay, a supporter since August 2019, has the tip of using the app switcher to see which apps you have running. So Command and Tab and continue to hold down the Command key while you tab through all of your different apps. So you can see what you've got going on, and if you want to quit an app you can simply use the Q key and it will quit that one app. You could also use the H key to hide an app. So I can hide Pages right here by just pressing H when I'm over it. Chaz, a supporter since September 2017, uses a lot of similar responses when replying to people in mail. Instead of retyping everything, he saves the canned response as a text clipping. So you can do that by selecting the text and then clicking, holding, and dragging the text to the Finder. So I'll drag it to the desktop here and you can see this text clipping. If you have a lot of them, you could put them in a special place. So let's create a new folder here in Documents called Responses, and I'll add this clipping to it. Now you could see the response there. There's the name of the clipping and you can click on it and a preview or a quick look will show you what's inside. If you want to use it again inside an email message, just drag and drop it there and you can see how it places it there. Now Chris, a supporter since January 2019, also has a suggestion for mail. Sometimes when you type in the To field to add an email address, it will insert an incorrect one or an outdated email address for someone. You can find a lot of these by going to Window and then Previous Recipients. And this will show you a list of previous recipients. You can search for them and you can select any one that you want and remove it from the list so it won't be suggested anymore. Note that suggestions when you type an email address are also taken from your contacts. So you may want to check there if you're getting a wrong address sometimes. Bill, a supporter since November 2020, has a tip for using photos. He finds that while the Enhance function right here will work great, a better way to do it is to go to Edit and then use 4 auto settings. Those are Sharpen, Noise Reduction, Color, and Light. And then from there, if you want to go further, just open this up and maybe change a slider just a little bit to get the effect that you want. Tom, a supporter from February 2017, likes to add extra spacing to the dock. And you can do that in Terminal by using this command right here. That will add an extra space to the dock and restart the dock. Notice now I've got the space right here and I could drag it over to wherever I want to create some spacing and group apps together. Note that an alternative is to use small spacer tile instead of a regular spacer tile. And now you'll get a smaller space instead of the full icon width one. Esteban, a supporter since August this year, has to save a lot of things as PDFs, but not all apps have the ability to export as a PDF. But as long as you can print, you can get a PDF. Just go to File, Print, and then from there choose PDF and you can save as PDF. Now Jim, a supporter since October 2019, strongly suggests, and I completely agree, that you should get a UPS for your Mac, especially if you're using an iMac or a desktop Mac, that if you lose power or even just get a quick fluctuation of power, it will shut it off. So you can find a UPS, an uninterruptible power supply, at just about any computer store. If you look on Amazon, you'll find them at all sorts of different prices. You don't need an expensive one to save you from a quick power outage, but you can get a larger one to help you keep working if you get frequent outages in your area. And it's useful not just to plug your iMac into, but also things like external screens, internet modems, anything that could suffer damage or prevent you from working if there's a quick power outage. Angela, a supporter since September of this year, has the very useful tip to utilize the accessibility function in System Preferences under Keyboard to go to Viewer and then enable the accessibility keyboard. This gives you an on-screen keyboard, but you could go to Panel Editor here and create additional panels for this keyboard. And on these panels you could add buttons that do various things. For instance, this button here can insert some text, and you could have it set in the actions to enter text, enter whatever text it is, and it would type that. You can add another button to this panel here and position it where you want and have it press multiple keys. So I can do Shift Command Option V, for instance, and then maybe a return after that. So now here I can go to that custom panel. I can use this to insert some text, and then let's say I copy this text here and I want to paste it using Edit, Paste and Match Style. That's all those keys there, and then put a return after it. This button is going to use that command and put that return after it as well. There's all sorts of useful things you can do using buttons you create for these panels. So I want to thank all my patrons for the tips that they suggested. I had many more that I couldn't fit into this video. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
The guy is amazing how he cranks these things out every week, and there's always something new that I've been using Macs for a long time, but he teaches me something new almost every time. Now here's a very interesting feature, and I have to confess I was totally ignorant about it in iOS, and it is, I think it has the potential of being extremely useful for all of us at one point or another. So check this one out. iOS 15, drag and drop.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Today let's look at drag and drop on the iPhone. MacMost is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MacMost.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So iOS 15 brings significant improvements to drag and drop on the iPhone. You can now drag and drop between apps, and it works just like it does on the Mac. So let's start off with a simple example using the Photos app. This is one of the most common types of drag and drop you may want to do. Drag a photo from the Photos app to, say, a mail message. So I'm going to go into Photos, and then I'm going to start dragging a photo by tapping it and moving. Now if I tap for a little bit too long, then I get a context menu. But that's okay. Just keep dragging away and you can see you're now dragging that item. Now this is where multi-touch comes in. You have to keep your index finger down on this item that you're dragging. Don't ever lift it up or the drag will end. But you can use other fingers to do other things. So I'm going to swipe up from the bottom here to go home, and notice I'm still dragging this item around. So now I'm going to go into another app. Let's go into Mail, and I'm going to start a new message. I'm going to tap the composition button there at the bottom right, and I am going to drag and drop into the mail message. So now I've dragged and dropped an image from Photos into Mail. And of course you can go into other apps as well. So let's drag this image here and go into the Messages app. And I'll drag it down here to send it to somebody. Here's another example. Let's use Notes. But this time, instead of going to the home screen, I'm going to drag up slightly from the bottom like that and go into the App Switcher. And this will show me all the recently used apps. So I can actually go over to one and then select it. And now I'm in the Notes app. And I can drop the image here and it'll insert it into Notes. Let's do one with Pages, but this time I'm going to drag and drop multiple items. So I'm going to select this one and start dragging it. But the next thing I'm going to do is tap to select another item. So now I'm actually dragging a stack of 2 items. So let's go into the App Switcher. I'm going to use my other finger to go to Pages. Now in Pages I'm in read-only mode. But I can still activate things on the screen by tapping buttons with other fingers even while I'm dragging these 2 items. So I'll tap Edit. Now I'm in edit mode. Let's go to where I want to insert these 2 images and I'll drop them here. And you can see it's going to insert both of them. Let's tap away and then tap one of the items. And now you can see I can manipulate it and I have 2 different items here. So I was able to drag and drop 2 items at once. This also works with third-party apps, but the third-party app has to support it. So let's start dragging and dropping an item here. And let's go to a third-party app, in this case Pixelmator. And Pixelmator here I have an image I'm already working on. I'm going to drop this one in, thus importing this image into the project. But of course if the app hasn't been updated to support iOS 15 and drag and drop, then it won't work. Now on the Mac you can drag and drop from Photos to the Finder to export an image. And you could do the same thing now in iOS 15. Of course instead of the Finder you've got the Files app. So let's go into Photos. I'll start dragging an image like this. I'll go to the Files app and then I'll go to where it is I want to drop it. Let's just put it in this folder and I'll add it. And this actually will act like an export. And since this is also an iCloud Drive, it uploads to iCloud Drive. So it really does work just like it does in the Finder. And this of course brings us to the Files app, which is another place you'll probably want to drag and drop from. So you can do the same things here. I can take an image that's already here in the Files app. So this is a file. And I could drag and drop it into, say, a mail message. Or I could drag and drop this into Pages. And everything I've done so far now has been images. But you could do the same with other file types. So for instance here's a PDF. Let's say I want to attach that to an email message. I can go to the Mail app and here I'm composing a message already and I can drop in this PDF file as an attachment. And you can also drag and drop from the Files app into the Photos app. So importing into Photos. So I'll switch here to the Photos app and I'll drop this in and it acts just like an import. Another type of drag and drop you may want to do is to drag and drop text. So here I've selected some text in Notes and I could start to drag it by tapping, holding, and then moving. And then I could switch away to Mail for instance and drag this text into there. And you could do the same thing on the web. So for instance I can select some text here in a web page and I could start dragging it. And now I can switch to Notes for instance and then drop it right here. It also works in other situations. For instance in Safari I could drag and drop the web page like that from the bar at the bottom or at the top depending upon how you have it set. And I could go into another app like Notes and drop it here and it drops the link with the preview. I could even go into the News app and I could drag a news story like that and I could go say into Mail and I could drop that and you can see it adds the link. Look at it work here in Maps. I've selected a location. I can drag and drop from the top here. I could go into Mail or let's say Notes and I could drag that into there. So as you can see drag and drop is now almost on par with using a desktop computer. So give this a try on your iPhone with iOS 15 or iPad with iPad OS 15. A lot of this worked on the iPad in previous versions of iPad OS as well. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
That is cool.
Isn't that amazing? That's
I just did it on my phone
nifty.
while he was doing it, and it's so easy.
Yeah. Now, what I've been doing up to this point is I've been like for text, I'll select it and then drag the little handles and then hit copy. And then I'll go into another app and hit paste, but this is even easier. So I had no idea that that actually worked. Apple's really, they should advertise this stuff so that people would know what they're buying. It really is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, except if they have fingers like mine, they'll be calling the geniuses and complaining that it doesn't work, because I look at that and think of having one finger doing one thing while my other finger is doing something else. I will try it, but I can find it hard to picture how that's going to work, but I haven't tried it yet.
I assume Jerry Ford would have had the same problem. What was it? They said he couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time. So there may be some of us that can't do that. I don't know, but you can always use the select and copy and paste function. And I think with some practice and a little self-discipline, you could probably do that. If you can use chopsticks, I'm sure you could do that. Can you use chopsticks?
Yeah.
There you go. Success. One of our members posted last week, didn't ask this as a question for the group, but I thought it would be worthwhile exploring this. Cases, covers, and sleeves. One of the videos that Gary had last week was about protecting your MacBook Pro when you bought it. And I thought it would be interesting to take a look at some of these things. Here's sleeves, for instance. Stupid telephone. I'm not going to answer it. The sleeves allow you some protection, and I have one here. I'll show you when I'm done with all these pictures. That you can get pretty reasonably. There's a Mosiso for $11 and a Whitenet for $12 at Amazon. They're lightweight. They're great for like a MacBook Air, or like for my Chromebook here that I'm using. I use this as a backup screen. It's a 13-inch screen, and it fits into its sleeve very nicely. So if you're not going to be doing a lot of in and out stuff with the machine, then the sleeve may be exactly what you need. But then you can look at covers, and there's all kinds of nifty covers, and most of them come with a rubberized keypad protector, which, remember, Gary pointed out last week that if you use one of those, it's not a good idea to leave it on the keyboard all the time, because it has been known to crack some screens. But they're lightweight. You can get hard shell covers. Some of them are patterned, as you can see here. Some of them are illustrated. Some of them are clear plastic, like this one down here at the bottom. And some include the keyboard cover, as I said. The one down here at the bottom that's clear is a GJ Goo for 14-inch MacBook Pro for $30. And another one, Sisuk, for 14-inch MacBook Pro for $26. Then we have the briefcase to backpack type cases that if you're moving around a lot, then you can carry a case like this that would hold your laptop, maybe the power charger and some cables, or you could have one like this that's like a little briefcase. This one is $20, a messenger style. This one is $27. These have come down significantly in the last few years. And here's a briefcase model for $29 that at one point when I was going to New York and Boston for the Mac Worlds back in the 20th century. I found that carrying one of these with my laptop in it, I'd be able to put in socks, a couple of shirts, and some underwear, and I wouldn't have to have any checked-in luggage. I even had room for electric razor and a toothbrush. So there's the cases, sleeves, and covers.
Great.
So I'm going to leave this for a second. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and go back to the Zoom. There we go. Now this is a nice little case for it's a sleeve rather, and it also has a little zippered pocket that you can put a mouse in, or some writing paper, or a power supply, what have you. This particular case goes very well with this Chromebook. It fits right in there and makes a nice package. This is another one. I've had this one for a long time. This is a Targus. It has a nice spot for cables and so forth here. It opens and it has a spot for odds and ends, pens, documents, and Velcro straps to hold in your MacBook. And it has a documents case held by Velcro on the very back. And that's not a very expensive one. Then this is the one I'm talking about, where you can travel with it. It has room. I can really put a lot of stuff in this. I have my MacBook Pro. I have 3 or 4 extra hard drives and cables galore and so forth. And it works very well. I don't know that they make this one any longer. This is made by Samsonite, and I bought this at Costco at one point. I think it was $50, but it's all leather. And I've used this thing for more than 10 years, and it's quite handy. So anybody got any questions about that gear? No? Okay.
That's
So
great. Thanks.
let's go back to the presentation. Got to share the screen. There we go. Open up Keynote. Hopefully. Okay, window. Bring it all to front now. Slide, go to. I don't know why Keynote disappears. I have to quit it and restart it. Oh, and share the screen. And restart Keynote. Pardon me?
That's working now.
If I can bring up Keynote. There we go. So go back to questions and answers. And I see that one question came into the bulletin board while we were, I guess, while I was eating lunch. It says, when I compose and then send an email from Apple Mail on my iPhone 11, after sending, I get this when I try to read it in the sent folder. And what it says is this message cannot be displayed because of the way it is formatted. Ask the sender to send it again using a different format or email program. And then it says text plain. That was Ken Cooper. Ken Cooper, are you with us today?
Can't hear?
We'll move along because I think we need more information than what he gave us. Another member asked on the bulletin board recently, has anyone tried the DOS keyboards with cherry switches, brown versus blue? I responded to that I use a keyboard with cherry switches, but it's the Matthias Tactile Pro. It sells for about 140 bucks, and it's very noisy. Some of you may remember I've been scolded from time to time when I had audio on and I was typing because the typing overrode the audio. It's very clickety, but I'm a touch typist and I can probably get 10 words a minute faster using that keyboard than I can the little chiclet keyboard that the Apple comes with. So has anybody else used such a keyboard? Because I think Kenji is interested in that. Nobody uses such a keyboard. I'll be darned. Well, Kenji, I can tell you that it is the best keyboard experience that you could possibly have. Those cherry switches are wonderful. The blue ones, I believe, are the semi-silent ones. The brown ones are the real clickety ones. But
I think it's the other way. I think it's actually the other way around. I
is
think
it?
the blue
Okay.
keys are clacky and the brown ones are quieter.
Okay. But
What are cherry switches?
Cherry
They're
is a brand
mechanical-
of switch, and
Yeah.
they have different lines of switches.
And the switches are replaceable in the keyboard, and they're mechanical, and they're quite positive. They have a good throw and a good clicky feel when you push the key. It's just a really, really nice typing experience, and you can go lickety split. So both the DOS and the Matthias use cherry switches, and they're quite good and very durable. I'm on my second one. My first one lasted me for about 8 or 10 years, and then one of the keys failed. So I bought another one, and I'm glad I did.
Cherry is a British company, and they make their own keyboards too. After Mac Life magazine raved about their Mac keyboard, I bought one, and it turned out it was a PC layout, not a Mac layout, and that they do make a Mac layout, but apparently nobody imports it into this country. And then I bought this one, which is, I don't know if you can see it there, kind of. Let me hold it up. It's this is also a cherry keyboard, but it's just like the Apple keyboards, and it has similar keys. And I find it's just like the Apple keyboard in that the keys get pretty funky pretty quickly. Not responsive, right?
They what?
They just don't. I mean, after they fail pretty easily, pretty quickly, which was my problem.
What did you pay? What did you pay for that one?
A lot less than you paid for your Matthias. I forget how much it was. It was definitely under $100.
Yeah, I wouldn't fool around with the substitutes. Boy, go for the real thing. The DOS, there's 3 brands. I can't remember the third one, but Matthias, DOS, and one other. They're all about the same price, and boy, are they worth it. And they're Mac. You can buy either PC or Mac, but it has the right keys for the Mac. It has the command key and such. B&H sells them, and I'm sure you can buy them on Amazon as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so.
interesting. I had a call from a lady who I don't think is in the group, but her clock had dropped onto her computer and broken 3 of the keys on the computer. And I asked her, well, can you still get those former keys to type? And she said yes. So I looked on Google, and evidently there are companies that make replacement keys, maybe for just about every model of keyboard that's been used, as far as I can tell. So just an interesting factoid, I guess. So she's purchased a replacement for 3 different letter keys.
Has
Hopefully
she
it'll work
installed
with her.
them yet? Because some of them are hard to install, especially those scissors keys.
Well,
Practically, you have to have dental tools to put them in.
They did have a video on how to do it, which I haven't looked at, but hopefully
Okay.
she'll be able to handle it.
Yeah. Does she have Apple Care?
It's a PC keyboard.
Oh,
Mm.
okay. Lynn,
I have a quick question on one of the gifts that Gary was talking about. The multi-device charger. Is there any particular brand that anybody recommends in the club? Anybody have one of those multi-device chargers?
I don't have a multi-device charger, but I think you can't go wrong with Anchor. This is a
Okay.
little charger. I use this for my phone. I have one in the bedroom and one out here at the breakfast bar. And you just set your phone on it, it charges it up. I think it was $13. The multi-device chargers are pricey. You may spend 3 figures.
Really? Really?
Some of them are pretty expensive.
Well, okay, I'll research it. I was thinking, for the phone, Kindle, etc.
It's charged
Kindle-
all at once.
A Kindle's not magnetic charging, is it?
No.
Yeah, well, the multi-device chargers that I'm thinking of are all magnetic.
Oh,
What kind of charging are you talking about?
So you want to
Charging
use wired chargers.
yeah. To charge
Oh,
a Kindle
geez.
and an Apple.
Well, I bought that little power strip that I showed you. It's in use right now. I don't think I can show it to you. Can you see it there? It's a
Yes,
little
you can see it.
square. That
Okay,
little
what
white
brand-
square that has.
What brand
4
is that?
I don't know. It's some
No.
off
It's
brand.
just a little plugging box, right?
It's H. I can't read it. It's upside down and it's a stylized print. But it
Okay.
has 8 plugs on it and 4 USB outlets. And I think it was $14.
Okay.
So
Right.
why not just get a regular plugging strip and just plug in a row of all the dozens of chargers I'm sure you have laying around your house?
Yeah, I guess. I just thought this looked pretty compact.
Yeah,
So,
this one is very compact and has 4 USB ports on one side of it.
okay,
And it's really, really neat. I like it.
great. Okay, thanks.
Sure.
But the question would be how much power it delivers to each one of those ports.
2 amps. Each port will support up to 2 amps.
Rick, what was the name of that? How do you spell that name of the other keyboard? Not DAS, the other one, Matthias? Will you say it?
Matthias, M-A-T-I-A-S.
M-A-T-I-A-S, okay.
And the model is Tactile Pro.
Tactile Pro?
Right.
Thanks.
I love it. It is wired. It's not Bluetooth. And it has 3, I think it has 3 USB ports on it as well. But they're USB 1. They'll run a mouse if you want to, or a pad, a drawing pad, something like that.
Can I ask a question about fun stuff? Fun
Well,
present?
let's finish the
Okay.
third and last question we got here. My contacts are requiring me to enter a password. Why? And what password? My computer, my Apple ID password? This was Kathleen, and I may have gotten that question incorrectly. Kathleen, can you explain it to us?
Well, actually, before we started the meeting, and I think it was Anne that said, did you click on the message? And actually, I did click on the message, and it took me to my dialog box with my internet accounts, and I had inadvertently clicked contacts with my Yahoo account that I didn't
Right.
want to have
Yeah.
clicked. And once I deselected that, the message went away. So yay,
Oh,
it was
okay.
gone. I solved my problem. I guess just talking about, well, the quick, being able to discuss it with you took care of it. But I did
Great.
have one more question. I went
Okay.
to Amazon to, as a gift, buy a UPN, and I was overwhelmed by the choices.
Yeah.
And none of them told me, or I didn't know where to look as to the length of time they would supply power when the power went out. In other words, how long the battery would last.
Depends on what you
Are
have
you gonna
plugged
run
into
this?
it.
Are you gonna run it on an iMac?
Yeah, I wanted to, this is a gift, and I'm assuming it's to run the Mac and the
You don't
internet.
want to you don't want to run a printer on it,
No,
but yeah, you put your modem on it
yeah,
and your Mac, and keep in mind that the Mac has an automatic system when you put the UPS on it. Get one that has a connector, USB connector, connect it to the Mac, and go into the energy saving settings, and the UPS settings will pop up there. They're already built in, and you can tell it how many minutes you want before it automatically shuts your machine down. It's all built in.
no, I'm talking about a UPN. What the piece of equipment that you put in case the electricity goes off.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Talking the same thing.
That's what I'm talking about.
UPS is uninterruptible power
Power
supply.
supply, right.
Right.
Okay.
What Kathleen is talking about is knowing up front how long a given rating will run her computer before it needs to shut down. Before the
Bigger
computer
is
needs to shut
longer.
down.
Bigger is longer.
I
What
mean,
you want to do.
Prices from $70 to $300, and
I
there's
think-
no,
I think the $70 one will not be adequate for you.
okay,
But the one I'm using, I believe, cost me about $130. But what you want to do is look at I believe the back of the Mac, or somewhere on the Mac, it'll tell you how many watts it draws. I think an iMac, I'm guessing on this, somebody should help me. I think an iMac draws about 100 watts. And of course, to confuse the issue, these UPSs are rated not in watts, but in volt amps, which is a bastardized electrical measurement. But I think if you get one that's in $120, $130 range, that you're going to be okay. And if you're at a brick and mortar store, tell them what wattage that you're using. Say if it's 100 watts, you're going to want at least 10 minutes of shutdown
Right.
operating time, and you could probably get by with one with minimal amount. But keep in mind that if you use the energy saving setting and the USB cable, that even if you're not there and the machine is there,
Right.
it will automatically shut your machine down.
Okay.
And then you can choose to reset it so that it will restart upon power coming back on, or just stay shut off. I would say keep it off.
Okay.
But it's that's built right into the energy saving settings on the system setup, system settings.
Okay. And it comes with its own surge protector.
It is a surge protector.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Okay.
when you connect your machine or your equipment to one of those, you're not plugged into the wall anymore. The
No.
way it works is it plugs into the wall. It then keeps a wet battery inside. You notice that they're very heavy. It has a battery in it, like your car battery, but not that big. And it charges the battery, and then there's another circuit that draws off the battery, converts it into alternating current, and runs your equipment. So you're completely separate from the wall.
Great. Okay.
The other thing that these things will do, the better ones, if your voltage, say there's a surge or a brownout, if the surge goes up to about 130 or 140 volts or down to about 90 volts, the UPS will not be affected. It'll keep it at 117 or 120 volts, 60 cycles without any quiver at all. If the power goes off, there's usually a little beep that'll go off, and it will switch into power saving mode, and then it can shut your machine down safely.
So a lot of them have only surge on one half and battery on the other half. So take that into account when you're figuring out how many things you want to plug in. Only half are UPS, the other are surge only.
Yeah, I think I've got
but you could
8
still-
outlets on mine, and 4 of them are through the UPS, and the other 4 are just simply on a surge protector. So they're clearly labeled. And what you might want to do is to run on, well, let's see, can you go into Best Buy anymore? Do they
Yes.
let people in? Do they?
Yes, I went in a couple of weeks ago, but man, it's a zoo to have anybody to help you.
My advice is, I have advice on this. Are you a Costco member, Kathleen?
I am.
Costco has several surge UPSs. I bought a CyberPower 1500 volt amp surge protector. I think was about $150, but they have another one by that same brand that's 1350 volt amp. So it's not that much smaller. It's a member only item that costs $99, and that's a pretty good deal.
I have a CyberPower, and I like it, and it's got a screen on it that gives you the readings of the current voltage and draw and so forth. It's very nice.
And I have a Mac Mini, 2 large displays, and about 4 external drives, and I have them all plugged into, and it'll run for quite a while before it shuts down with the power off. What I've done is I've tested it by flipping off the circuit breaker in my apartment so that it goes to battery and let it run to see how long it would run. And I don't remember exactly how long it ran, but it ran for quite a while. I could have kept working, and it's driving quite a few things.
Is that online, or can I walk in?
I believe the one I bought, I bought it in person. But I bought it a while ago, so I don't know what they have in store, but I was just looking at the website. The one that I have is $150 on the website, or it's the 1350 volt amp one was $99.
Thanks, Kenji. That's good. That's good to know. Thank you.
And with Costco, you could bring it home, plug all your stuff into it, pull the plug out of the walls, or flip off the circuit breaker, and just see how long it runs. As soon as you plug in a UPS, the computer you plug in a UPS, a USB cable from it to the computer instantly senses that there's a UPS connected to it. And then you can tell it when to shut off, either by time or by percentage of battery left on the UPS. So I think I have mine set so to shut down the computer when the UPS battery is down to 20%.
Question. Where do you tell it that?
In Energy Saver, in the control, in the system prefs.
Rick, could you stop sharing your screen, please?
Yes,
Question.
we hadn't gotten to the happy hour yet.
Well, the clip art, I'm sorry, was just hurting my eyeballs.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Put on your purple glasses.
So Lee is waving, and I also have a question.
Lee,
Yes.
go ahead.
In the UPS, should you get one that generates a sine wave, or is the rectangular 60 cycle okay?
I think they generate a sine wave. I don't think they do a square wave.
I think it says they generate a simulated sine wave, which might not be, so I don't think it's a pure sine wave. Whatever that means.
The other thing that the UPS is good for, let's assume the worst case scenario. You've got some friends over for dinner and you're not using your computer and the power goes off and you're sitting there in the dark. You can go get your UPS and plug in a table lamp and be good for a couple hours.
Plug in and make sure it's an LED, not an incandescent, if anybody has any of those anymore.
Or you could buy your new electric F-150 pickup truck and plug in your whole house.
Your audio is ear shattering, Kenji, or else you're moving back and forth like this to your mic.
I'm getting excited, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of powering the whole neighborhood off my non-existent F-150. Is it better now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to get Costco up here, but it's interesting. You know, this doesn't take me to Costco. It keeps taking me to other places. I was going to look. There's
Costco.com.
Sorry?
Costco.com.
Yes. But the browser that I'm using on my Chromebook was taking me elsewhere.
And that's why.
Exactly. That explains the problem. It's a Chromebook.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't have two Macs handy, so I'm using the Chromebook as a backup here.
Google just want to get paid.
Yeah, I see. No, it's funny. It says the page is unresponsive. They must be overloaded. But you can look on their webpage or look at Amazon. Another place, I don't know if they have one out in Antioch, where you can at least look at them and talk. You don't have to buy it there. Is go into battery and bulbs, which is an interesting shop. And also they sell replacement batteries for UPSs.
Can I add something? I got a different UPS, and when I had Spectrum install a modem for my telephone, there was one kind that had a battery in it that would make it last longer. And he said, oh, this isn't as good as what you already got in the UPS. So I should just use the UPS.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I used to have a Comcast modem, and they charged you 30 or 40 bucks for a battery for it, but it was only good for 8 hours. Whereas the modem on a UPS will probably last a couple of days. I know when the power went out here, my landline, which is a Comcast line, my landline worked until the power came back on, which was about 6 hours.
No kidding.
So my phone was good. So
That's good
You- you,
information.
uh,
That's what I was looking for.
Well, I just checked Costco and they only have the surge protectors. They don't have the
UPS.
UPS. Yeah,
What do you mean they don't have them?
they only
don't-
have the plain surge protectors.
Oh, no, type UPS in the search box. I just looked at it.
I meant at the warehouse.
Oh, at the warehouse,
In
okay.
Antioch. Yeah.
well, I just looked and I typed in UPS and I got nothing, but I typed in uninterruptible power supply and I found one. It's a Cyber Power 1500 volt amp to $179.99.
Well,
That's the
they
only one
want
they have.
the one that Kenji talked about, Amazon wants 161. for.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So maybe buy it on the Costco.com.
Well, this one has 12 outlets.
That's not the same as what he has. The same model number?
Well, it's 1500 VA, 900 watts, 12 outlets.
Oh.
That's
Another-
I don't think you really need one that big.
I don't think so. It's huge.
It does say you can order it and you can pick it up at the warehouse.
Oh, does it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was on the local. I went to Antioch to look.
Do UPSs have a lifespan?
Yeah.
Yes.
I bought
the
mine with
batteries, batteries have
It's
to
the
be
battery.
replaced from time to time.
Well, the battery, yes, but
About every 3 years.
How do you replace the battery?
There's an
Open it
inspection
up.
plate. It
yeah,
has
Like
two
old one.
two heavy wires that go to it. You pull those, you'll see a spark, and you pull the battery out. It's a battery about the size of a motorcycle battery, maybe a little smaller. It's a sealed lead acid battery, and it just slips right in. Take it into batteries and bulbs, and they'll give you an exact replacement.
Oh, great.
I have
Mine just
replaced.
stopped working a while back.
Yeah.
Must
Even
be the
if
battery.
you use it, it goes bad.
Well, the
It's
battery
like
will,
your car battery.
yeah, batteries wear out. My question is, does the UPS itself, age and at some point not work?
Well,
Because mine is maybe
It
10 years
could.
old.
It's electronic, so it could fail.
Right.
I had one where the electronics failed. The battery wasn't dead, but the electronics didn't work, so I still had to replace it.
Okay.
Mine
Thanks.
turns on, but it doesn't supply power. So I think it's just the battery.
Yeah, usually you pull the battery out or go to Amazon and look for your model number. Amazon sells the batteries.
Oh, look, good. Did we,
Yeah.
did we review Zoom questions already?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
we
had a
started-
question about your email. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I
weren't
had
here
to
when
jump
we
out. I
did
didn't
the
see it.
question.
Can you send me the same email and so I can see what it says here?
Yeah, what happened, when I reply, sometimes it works okay, but if I start from scratch, it gets that kind of thing that I sent. I just copied what it shows.
Send
And I
it
look
to
at the
me.
settings and I can't see anything would make it do that.
But you're sending it to yourself. It could be you as a receiver. That's
Yeah,
the
I can't see it
problem.
in the sent, or I can't see it when it comes to myself. You
Well,
can see it
could
at
be all
your
of-
end.
It could be it's all about you. So I want you to send it to me and see if I can see it.
Oh, I'm sure you'll see it. So you want me to send you, which one should, where do I send
The
you
one
right
that
now?
you can't see when you send it to yourself, send it to me
Okay,
at mac.com, Sobrero@mac.com, my last name.
okay,
I'll see what I see.
all right.
If you can't see it and I can, then it's something going on with your computer.
And while he's
Well,
doing
no,
that,
this is
Kathleen-
just on the iPhone 11, this happens. Hmm.
And while he's
So-
doing that, Kathleen, I looked at Sam's Club. They've got 3 of them. They got one 1375 volt amp, 10 outlets, 2 USB, 129.88, 129.98, excuse me. So I don't know if you belong to Sam's Club or not.
No, I don't.
Well, it just happens that I got this thing in one of those mail things. And it says join for $45 and get a $45 e-card.
She's already a Costco member.
Yeah, they've got the one I think Kenji had.
Okay.
I was gonna,
I would have mailed that to you if you wanted it.
I'm
I'm
just.
sorry, John, what was that? Where do you want me to send it? I have your ValueNet email address. Do you have that handy?
No, that doesn't exist. My last name at mac.com.
Okay, at mac.com. Okay.
Kenji, they want $99 for that. That's
Yes.
$15.50.
Yeah, the one I have is the 1500, but I think the 1350 will be more than enough for you.
Yeah, okay.
Do they add shipping to that, or is it they ship for free?
I don't think so. If I get that, it says, I don't think so. I'll find out.
And if you don't like it, you can always bring it back to the outlet to return it. You don't have to ship it back.
Simulated sine wave UPS battery backup with surge protection.
John's got a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's just a quick comment on the UPS for people, especially on the cyber power. If you have to replace the batteries on that, you might check to see they are now making batteries with larger amp hours, which effectively boosts that UPS up by quite a bit. The ones that came in originally, I think are either 8 or 9 amp hour batteries. The new ones you can get are 12 amp hour, which is a nice percentage increase. And I've checked with Cyber Power. They have their factory up there in Minneapolis, right where I'm close by. And they said there's no problem at all in putting the higher amperage batteries in there. It may make your run time a little off, but it's going to extend everything. So they have no problem with it.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
And
And that means they're made in the USA too then, huh?
Well, I assume they are, and they aren't that much more expensive. You have to look around to find them to get a 12 amp hour. You have to kind of scrounge around for it. But, the different price difference, I didn't feel was that big a deal.
Thanks, John.
So we have a store out here called Batteries and Bulbs. I swear they've got just about everything you could imagine. And if you can get a 12 amp hour battery that fits that, they'll find it. And they sell good batteries, Duracells, the little gel lead acid batteries.
Well, if you are replacing the battery in there, there's only one catch on it, and that they make 2 different spade connectors. You probably run across that, Rick. But the typical one is I believe an F1, and that's a smaller spade connector. What you need is an F2 to fit the Cyber Power batteries.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll have to play around with changing the wire and making a connection there. If you want an exact fit.
That's another thing that Batteries and Bulbs will do. They'll put an adapter on there for you.
Yeah, well, if you can get the battery, it's a PS 1280, and it's called an F2 spade, and that'll be a perfect fit.
That's
John, I sent you an email.
I didn't get it yet.
And after I sent it, I looked at it and it just displays the unreadable message. So it's definitely some setting I have on my phone that's not letting me see it.
And when you send it to yourself and you look at it on your computer, can you not see it on your computer?
No, I can
also?
see it on computer. I can see it on my old iPhone 5.
Oh, wow.
I
Well,
just
it's your
can't see it
phone
on
then.
the iPhone 11.
It's your phone.
I saw your picture on an ad for Back 40, Ken.
Oh yeah, I played there recently. Yeah, and I will play there coming up pretty soon too.
Good.
Was it a nice picture?
I didn't get your mail, but it doesn't really matter because you already
It's
told me
okay.
the answer. You send it to your Mac and you can see it. So it's your phone that's not
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it's a setting on my phone. I don't understand what it would be.
Yeah,
Hey,
looks
Rick.
fine here.
Hey, Rick, Kenji's being patient, sending text messages. So you probably ought to answer his text message and say,
Oh.
we're done.
Ready for fun.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, once we get done with the business questions, we can have fun.
no,
And
this
they
is
can
this
take
is a
down the
question.
social stuff.
No, this is a question.
Oh,
This isn't a social hour item. This is a question. Base stock shows. Can I go ahead?
Sure.
yeah.
Okay. Don't make me sit up and start shouting again. So Gary's video about things that would be fun for presents got me remembering. So several years ago, must have been 3 to 5 years ago now, I remember I went into Best Buy and they had a whole setup where they were demoing Oculus and where you'd sign up on a waiting list, and when it's your turn, you got to put them on and experience what an environment is like. Suddenly you're standing on a ledge in a cave, and it was very, very impressive. Unlike anything I've experienced before. But you needed a high-end, but it was a whole system, and it needed to be connected to not only a PC, but a high-end one. But I see that there are now these Oculus Quest 2s that seem to stand alone, as far as I can tell, and they're about $300. And I'm wondering, this might be the wrong room to ask this question. I don't know. But has anybody had or played with one of these Oculus Quest standalone VR systems where you don't need a computer? You just, the thing itself downloads the game or the environment and.
No, closest I came was the 3D viewer that the New York Times sent. They got a big 3D program going that makes you want to throw up.
Well, you do notice that most of the participants in the Zoom meeting are wearing eyeglasses. So I don't think we'd see anything if we took them off and put something else on.
No kidding.
Got that right.
Actually, I have a PSVR for my PlayStation, and I found that I can see it as good with glasses on as I can with them off, which is really kind of weird when you think about it.
Yeah,
The nausea is a problem. I've got this one game, and you're on a roller coaster, and you go down, and then at the bottom of the hill, all of a sudden it turns hard left. And it's really weird because your brain thinks we just turned, but your body says, no, we didn't. But
So does that cause nausea for you or not?
it did once.
Don,
Yeah,
I don't think I'm going to go flying with you.
You know.
Yeah, but what he's saying is when the visual cue doesn't match the bodily sensation, that's what throws you off, right?
Right.
That, and it was how much stuff I had in my stomach, because I did it again a few days later and didn't have any problems.
Okay.
But
when I was working at Industrial Light and Magic, we did a video for a ride at some show that was shot at 60 frames per second on 70 millimeter film, and it was a roller coaster thing, and it was in 3D, so you wore 3D polarized glasses, and there was a lot of problems with people getting sick in the screening room.
Yeah.
The actual ride was going to have you'd be sitting in cars where the car would move synchronized with the picture. So when it went like that, you would tilt that way, which might have made it worse or might have made it better, but we didn't have that set up to test it.
yeah, one of the guys I work with has the original Rift, and he brought it into the office one day, and I got to play around with it. And one of the things I did was, it was in one of those first person shooter games, kind of like, Call of Duty or something like that. And it was just amazing because there was stuff happening all around you. You would see a car coming your way and it would blow up and go over your head. I mean, it was just nuts. It's a very, very intense experience.
So I wonder if these Quest 2 things are as good in effect as that was, or whether, it's miniaturized where it doesn't require a computer, where it's all on board the headset now.
Well, here's your assignment for next week. Buy one of those with a return policy and give us a report on how it worked. If it didn't work, return it.
Well, now that you mentioned it, the last thing I bought from Amazon when it arrived, I realized that it said the return, because of, I guess, the season, the return window closes on January 31st.
Yeah,
so
they
I assume
it.
probably everything does at this point. So maybe so.
Well, when I listen to Twit or, any tech show, every year they say, well, it's not quite there yet. It'll be there, but not yet.
Yeah.
All righty.
Shall we stop the recording and
yeah, let's do that. Where's John?
He's entering. He's just
entered.
entering. He apparently had to leave.
Or
he got booted or something.
Let's. Yeah, John, we're ready for you to start.
Okay, I just dropped my connection. I had to come back, so I'm back.
Right.
You can stop the recording, John.
Yes, I heard you.
We'll say
bye.
Bye to everybody on TV land. Bye.
Where's the stop?